Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video, and today we are going to do a character guide and showcase on Squall. Squall is a very simple and easy character to play, so if you're like a newer player or you get overwhelmed with the complex kits, Squall is incredibly basic. He has one job and he does it well, and that is damage, particularly AoE damage. So he's an AoE physical damage dealer. That's really what he's meant to do, and if you like AoE physical damage or if you like Squall, he's a pretty good character to pick up. So in this video, we're going to take a look at his artifacts, his spheres, and then I'm actually going to start off, we'll do a showcase too, but before all that, we're going to talk about Squall because he actually has a couple of additional weapons to be aware of. So if we go into my weapon glosses here, Squall has one of these additional weapons that can only be bought in the power token exchange. So this is an extra 15 CP weapon called the Fury Blade. This one gives him a 20% Eye Brave and Max Brave up when his HP is above 80%. So that is significant enough that I think it is worth picking up. Like, those are stats that are good to have, right? So they're not as important as, say, like attack or like Brave damage, but they're still something, right? So I would recommend picking that up if you have the Power Stones. And then Squall also has, and I think I've done other videos on characters with these and forgot to mention them, but some characters have what are called the mannequin weapons. So these weapons are basically like the main protagonists all get one of these. So I'm pretty sure, like, I just did a video on Cloud and I'm pretty sure he's got one. Onion Knight has one. Like, those like main I think Furion's got one, like those main protagonists, Noctis, characters like that. Lightning's got one. I know I've done a video on Lightning, I think. So yeah, I kind of forgot to talk about these, but most players just naturally pick these up if you're playing the game. So the mannequin weapons come from Act 2, Chapter 5. So basically, if you completely finish Act 2, Chapter 5, you should be picking up these mannequin weapons. You definitely want to make sure you max them out before you sell them, because there's no other way to obtain them. They are not in the Power Token Exchange, I don't believe. So I think if they're gone, they're gone. Someone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. If they actually are in the Power Token Exchange, let me know. But the main way you get them is from that story quest, right? So a couple of weapons to note there. And then his mannequin weapon adds 10% Brave damage to his Skill 1 and Skill 2. So that's something there as well, right? Okay, so jumping in, artifacts are very, very easy. Artifacts and spheres are pretty darn easy on Squall. So for artifacts, you just want to go attack 108, max Brave 330. Pretty basic attack. Like, a general rule, guys, with the artifacts, like for probably like 80 to 90% of characters, it's going to be like attack 108. For most characters, it would be attack 108, and then it's either like max Brave 330 or a C50. And there's like some exceptions to that, but that's kind of the general rule, right? So attack 108, max Brave 330 there. And then on the spheres, so Squall, you know, you can definitely tell he's defined as a damage dealer when he's got 3 A spheres, right? My spheres aren't the greatest. My third one is the one I'm going to recommend, but like Squall's own isn't the greatest. It just raises max Brave. That's not really what you want to do. And then I put this one up here from Shantoto. It raises Int Brave and max Brave. These are actually pretty bad spheres, but I don't have slot removers, and I put these on a long time ago when I maybe didn't understand the game as well, or like max Brave was a little bit more important back then. But those aren't really what you want to go for. For a character like Squall, you want to go for attack and Brave damage, but I think Brave damage leans a little bit better on Squall. So he's got like quite a bit of attack built in already. So I'd say Brave damage is where you want to go. So Kuja's is kind of uniformly, I think, seen as one of the better ones for Squall. So Kuja's increases Brave damage dealt with group attacks by, so the refined one is 4%, and then the full one is 10%. And it doesn't say on here that you cannot stack with the same spear, so I think this is a stackable one. So I think if you really love Squall, if you did like triple Kuja spheres, that's really where you'd want to go with him. So going with Brave damage, I think, is really the way to go with Squall. So if you refined a bunch of Kuja spheres, you could put 3 refined ones on there, and then you get 12%. Or if you really want to go ham and like actually make 3 actual ones, you could have 30% extra Brave damage, which is pretty crazy. So if you're a big Squall fan, that's the one I'm going to recommend. Obviously, there are a ton of different Ace spheres. We always talk about this. Look through your inventory, but if you can find things with Brave damage that he can activate, I would go for that first, and then secondly, go for maybe attack if none of those are working for you. But that's my recommendation there. All right, so we're going to hop into a quick little showcase here. Like I said, Squall's really basic. He's pretty easy to play and understand. So we'll just go through the kit here. This might be a shorter showcase. Like, I literally probably can just do a burst phase, explain it all, and we'll call it good, right? Okay, so we'll hop in here. But Squall's big thing is AoE damage. He's got AoE on everything that he does. So that's the big thing to keep in mind there. All right, so we got Squall right off the bat. Now what I'm going to do is I was going to do a burst phase, but I'm not going to jump into it right away because I do want to actually get some buffs on, because I do like to see how good they look with like support and stuff. And this is good because we've also got a triple enemy fight. Triple enemy fights are where Squall is really going to excel, right? So I'll start by showing you the LD. The LD basically is what, like, you want to keep his LD buff up at all times. So his LD gives him the Roaring Hammer buff, which you're seeing here. He does start with it, so you don't need to lead with the LD if you don't want to, okay? But basically, watch your Roaring Hammer buff. Make sure you always upkeep that. And basically, that Roaring Hammer is what you just saw. We did the LD attack, and then he gets a follow-up Roaring Hammer after every action he does, which is just like a slightly less version of the LD, but it still does a lot of damage. And because it's going to happen after every action he does, that's really where Squall gets his damage, like an insane amount of damage. Okay, so we did that, and then we're going to go ahead and do this. Yep. I think I picked the wrong fight because I'm melting these enemies away. I thought I did a Lufenia plus. So what I might do here, guys, to be honest, is I'm actually just going to use like a Brave attack here. I think I must have went into the wrong fight, but that's fine. We can still show off. It's not going to take long to show Squall off, right? Okay, and then, so then what we'll do here with Rem is let's go ahead and pop off a Cure just to make sure. I mean, we're already pretty much at full Brave, right? Let's see how much damage that does. Yeah, these enemies are melting. I definitely did not go into a Lufenia plus, so whatever I went into, it's all good though. All right, so what we'll do is let's go ahead and let's just swap in the Squall. I know he's right there anyways, but then we'll get the swap turns buff. Okay, sure, we'll do that. Yep. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go into the burst phase here with full enemies on. Yeah, let's just do that. Okay, so for Squall, the big thing with his LD, the other thing I forgot to mention is when you use the LD, I do believe he gets a free skill use. So what you want to do is you typically want to use up the skills first and then use up the LD. I'll double check that. Maybe it's on the EX. It's on the EX or LD, but I'm pretty sure, yeah. Oh, no. So, yeah, the LD recovers one use. So it's not a free use, but he recovers a use. So normally what you want to do is you want to try to use a skill 1 and skill 2 before you go into the LD, just because then you'll get a free use back. Honestly, like, skill management isn't very huge in today's game because you just have plenty of them. But if you want to maximize on that, but during the burst phase, it's important because I could use Solid Barrel and Renzo Kuken, then I can use the LD, and I should get 1 copy back to use during the same burst phase. This is really relevant if you green them because then you get extra moves to use, and you want to make sure you're putting out as much damage as possible, right? So we'll go ahead and do Solid Barrel. Now, the thing is basically with Squall, all you're doing is upkeeping buffs pretty much, and then if you need like a big AoE Brave Shave, you might go into LD. The LD is mainly if you want to upkeep buffs, his Roaring Hammer, or if you want big AoE Brave damage and shaving, right? So we'll start with Solid Barrel. So Solid Barrel is going to do a decent amount of damage to the single target. It's actually his better single target attack, and that's got a little bit of splash with it. And then the Roaring Hammer is going to pop off. So the damage initially doesn't look good, but then you add Roaring Hammer onto everything he does, and his damage is absolutely ridiculous, right? The amount of damage that he's going to pop off here. Renzo Kuken is full AoE damage. So you watch here. It's not like crazy. Watch. The damage will go in here. He does have 2 dumps. So it does more full AoE damage. So that's the attack. Renzo Kuken is when you got a bunch of enemies, you want to do a bunch of like big damage to all of them. That's the one that you're going to pop off, right? So then what we'll do is we'll use the Rough Divide. So that's the LD. So once again, this is giving the Roaring Hammer buff that you just want to upkeep. That's giving him all the big follow-ups. And then it should restore a skill use to skill 1 and skill 2. So we're going to do that. Yep. And luckily we're in burst mode. So like this guy can't die right now. And then, yep, you see I have my Solid Barrel and Renzo Kuken back, right? And then we'll go ahead and use the EX Assault Trigger. This one it does a lot of damage now because of his C90. So it's just a very good attack. But then he gets a Lionheart buff from it. So basically, his Solid Barrel and Rough Divide have the Solitary Lion buff, which is one that you want to upkeep, whether it's that or the other one. Assault Trigger does his Lionheart buff. And then Renzo Kuken has a Brave Up, Attack Up buff. Basically, all of these buffs just improve Squall stats, like really good. So just make sure you're upkeeping those. And then once again, the Roaring Hammer is the big one, right? So then now that I've got the extra skill uses, I guess we could do the ability attack up here. So what this is going to do, it's also going to give him an extra skill use of Solid Barrel, Renzo Kuken. So like Squall, between his LD and having an AA that restores, like, he's just never going to run out of skills, right? Unless you're like not playing the game properly and like taking way too many turns on a fight. But at that point, you're not going to get all the rewards anyways, right? And then he gets an attack buff off of this, and then brave damage cap up on this as well. So we'll just go ahead and we'll just use that just to have it in the video here. And then we're going to finish with the burst attack. And then I'll just basically explain what the burst attack is and we'll wrap up. But yeah, there's Squall. He's very simple, big time AoE damage, right? Now, the big thing off of his burst attack, so if you're going to green Squall, you really want to capitalize on this. So I would use his green attack fairly early in a fight, especially while you have multiple enemies. Basically, his burst effect, it does various other buffs, but the unique thing it gets is it does 50% more HP damage on splash attacks. So what that does is anything with splash, they're going to be doing a lot more damage and almost looking like full damage to the enemies. Now, characters that already do full AoE damage won't get buffed from this. It's only on splash. So normally those attacks where you do big damage to one enemy and then it splashes off little damage to the other ones, that damage is going to look a lot more impressive. So Squall, if you want to do like full AoE comps with a lot of AoE splash damage units, you can really get a lot out of him in those types of comps. But Squall, the thing with Squall is you have to build around him a little bit because he doesn't offer as much to the party as other characters do. Like Squall is going to be your main damage dealer if you're going to bring him. So then you got to make sure you carry a really nice support. And then the third character could be another support, another sub DPS, a utility character, something like that. So anyways, let me know what you guys think of Squall. I think it's a pretty good unit, especially if you like AoE damage. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one.